One thing I find endlessly fascinating every year is the stats the RIAA, the Recording Industry Association of America, puts out every year. These are things that I have found to be really useful, especially when I am teaching students. I use these stats every single semester to kind of teach students about each class. It's part of my lecture on recording, the history of music recording. And so I just love these stats. And when the new ones come out, I'm always so excited. And I haven't really heard anybody talking about the stats from that just came out from the RIAA about last year's music group and also last year's music growth. And I also found something about the global music market too. Same numbers, but for the entire global market. So that's what I want to share today. Are we in a time of growth of music? Are we doing all that we can do to make music income? And is it all worth the effort, or is it all just going to be sucked into the AI black hole? I have been experimenting with AI stuff this week. All the programs I'm using seem to have an AI component to them now. It's really crazy. Is sync in the mix at all? In the billions being made in music? Well, today I hope to address all these, or I should say we hope to address all these issues and talk about the good and maybe even the bad in the music industry. But first, let's address the elephant in the room here a little bit. Welcome to the Make Music Income podcast. That's right. This is the Make Music Income podcast. We're going to start doing this live every Friday, just going live with the podcast. And you may notice a little something different about the podcast today. Mr. Stevie B is taking a little break from the podcast during his super busy season right now. And I for one have to applaud that. My friend is in a busy time of making music income. And hey, this is called the Make Music Income podcast after all. So I am rounding up some new interviews and even some guest hosts that are coming on. I was supposed to have a guest host today, but maybe next week I'll have a guest host. And for now, just try a little bit of different formats and things I've been really wanting to do. But here's the thing. You, my Make Music Income live homies in the chat, are my partner today. If you want to ask a question or a comment, please do so in the chat. And that'll be something that can help us kind of discuss this today, because there's a lot to talk about. Don't worry, Steve will be back with us from time to time. But for now, he's just a busy little Stevie Beaver. But he did give me a great deal on a Mac Mini, which you can kind of see right back. Where is it? Right back there. Got a nice new Mac Mini that Steve sold me. He bought it last year, but just didn't do good for him. So he sold it to me at a very good price. Probably a guilty conscience for not being able to do the podcast right now. But I don't care. I'll take it. Very happy to have him here. But I'm really happy to also have you guys here. And let's see who is here with us today. Signature Music is in the house. Love 3, Luca is in the house. Rhett is in the house. Glad to have all of you here, and just want to know about your week. Tell me what has been going on in your week in the chat, or make sure you put it in the comments. Folks, I look at all the comments long after all of these lives and everything are over. So I respond to every comment. So make sure that you comment. Jonathan Carlisle's in the house. Thanks, Jonathan, for being here. Let me know, Jonathan and Rhett and Luca, Signature Music. Let us know what you're into this week. What have you made any money? That's what we want to know. Where's the money? Show me the money. So have you made any music money? Or you have any new music clients? I do. And I have new music incomes. I'm going to talk about them. Well, guess what? I'm going to talk about them right now. But today's show is called Music Business Facts. I'm going to give you some facts about the growth and the continued growth of the music business and places where it is shrinking down. So again, put in the comments what's been going on in your week. As far as my week, I have had some very interesting things happen. First of all, a big payment out of the blue from Pond 5. It was a referral payment, and they gave me a referral code to refer people to Pond 5. I think almost anybody can get this referral code, but Pond 5 gave me a referral code, and I've had it on, I guess, my Pond 5 video and a few other videos. Apparently, however that works, I got a $180 payment from Pond 5 this week. I mean, I didn't get the payment. It was added to my month there, which means that's going to be like a $200 month or more paying out next month on the 15th. So a big surprise. One thing that I haven't seen in Pond 5 so far is, if you remember from last month, I did a video about interesting month at Pond 5, and mainly that was because of the AI payments thing, the data set earnings and the partner earnings. We did not see them this month as of yet. As of the 26th of May, we haven't seen a May payment for those data set earnings and partner earnings they say that we're going to get. So haven't really seen that yet. And but it did get a big payment from Pond 5 today or yesterday for referrals. So I didn't even know. I've made a buck or two off of that over the past 2 years. But suddenly it's a thing. So if you've made any referral stuff on there, let me know. Let me get through my week here, and then I'm going to find out what's been going on in you guys' week and answer any questions. But I had a large 4-figure deposit for album production this week. That's the first time that's happened in a while. It used to be the way I worked. I would work for someone developing a record for them, a recording, an album. Used to be albums all the time. We're going to talk about album sales today, but it used to be albums all the time. This is a longtime client of mine, and they're back to do an album. We're tracking on Tuesday. I'm still looking for a keyboard player for that day, and we'll be tracking in Nashville on Tuesday for the majority of this album. But I got that large 4-figure deposit in today. So that was, or I should say in this week. So that was nice. I'm having a pretty decent Motion Array and overall stock income month. What I didn't put in my notes here is I had a big SongTrader payday yesterday. Folks, if you are not using SongTrader and their monetization options for all of your non-exclusive songs, you need to have them in there. There's almost no reason. This is not a sponsored video for SongTrader, but you need to have your stuff on SongTrader, because I'm telling you, they are one of the top payouts for me per year of non-exclusive music income. And so had a big day yesterday, a lot of payments from there, probably it's $100 or so for the month. And so that in addition to how Motion Array is going, which might get up to $100, plus the 200 from Pond 5, it looks like we're headed past a $400 month in the non-exclusive / stock world, which is good. If you know what's going on with stock, it is going down every year, but it looks like it's going to be a good month. I did a video and got paid this week or I'm getting paid. I just submitted an invoice today for a video that's coming out Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday. That is about a distributor that I've never used before. And so that's coming out on Monday. Got the approval from them, and I think you'll enjoy that. A lot of cool things that distributor does, so you can check that out. We had a nice Composers Mastermind live on Wednesday. And by the way, if you are someone who wants to be part of that, make sure you go down in the notes below. You can see how to get into our mastermind. Looking for 2 composers for next Wednesday. We're doing 2 composers right now. Might move that to 3. So if I get 3, we may do 3 composers on that day. Let's see what else happened. Yesterday, I kind of quietly unveiled something called Make Music Income Daily. And this is basically something that I am doing to try to support the channel, but also show you on a daily basis. And so far, I have 4 of the 5 days of this week up there. And this is a thing I'm trying to do. I've got to do this as a subscription because I'm going to be talking about some specific numbers from clients, and I just don't want to give that away completely publicly. And also, I'm going to be talking about specific libraries that I work with in there, not just the stock ones, but the ones I can't really mention on the air. So if you're interested, you can come and join our site. It's $9.99 a month, folks. It's about the same as a cup of coffee, and you'd be really helping the site. I'm really trying to get to a place where this becomes one of my main focuses as far as educating in music. I love working at the site. I love talking with all of you all, and it's just something I would like to pay more attention to. But for anything in my income life, it has to be something that brings income. And so this channel is bringing a little, but I'd like to get it up to the point where I can really back off from other things and focus on this channel mostly. So that's Make Music Income Daily. I talk about what is happening. A lot of times I'm just waking up, or I'm sitting in here just getting ready to work on stuff. And we're already, I'm already telling you what's going to happen on that day and some money that's come in every day. When every day is a thing, every day is a new day in music income here for me. Maybe it is for you, but when you're doing this full time, every day something happens and you're like, whoa, that's awesome. So, all right, that's about my week. Oh, and I did tell you already about my new computer. That's right back here, and I am loading it up right now. And hopefully it'll be over here and moving me a bit faster to get more stuff done. So let's see about your week. What has been happening with you? A lot of comments here. Mix Club Rhett says he's been mixing and recording this week. Lucas says this month he's had some money from Motion Elements. How about that? And About Music, very busy with BeatStars and SongTrader. Good. I think you'll find SongTrader to be very helpful, especially once you get a good amount of catalog in there and use as many of the monetization options. SongTrader is supposedly a place where you can get sync placements and things like that. But I find much more consistent income coming from just putting the stuff into their monetization options, especially their apps and platforms, their downloads. I'm going to do a video on this soon, but their overhead music. There's quite a few things, and I'm going to show that here in an upcoming video. I mean, you can go back and see my SongTrader video that I've got on my site and in the review section. Not much has changed really with that site since that review, but I want to kind of update that. Stephen Talamy in the house. Thank you so much for being here, Stephen. Steve, I want to talk to you about being a guest host for the show one time. Not so much making music income, but spending income on music. Upgrade NI complete to version 14 in the sale. Dude, I am right there with you. I saw that update price. I think I only have to pay $99 to upgrade to 14 standard, which is going to give me Ozone standard, which is good because I'm switching computers, and that means I'm going to have to pay Waves again. So I think instead of paying Waves, I'd much rather pay Native Instruments and get Ozone for sale, because really all I use for mastering is a couple of Waves plugins, but I do love Ozone. So I'm excited to get Ozone and all the stuff. Ronan is up. Good morning. Pip, pip. Starting on Halloween tracks this weekend. Yeah, I am also going to be doing more Halloween. And I just got a Halloween song signed, I believe, at Crucial Music. Waiting to see. Shane is here on the office computer. Good to see you, Shane. Let's see. Shane says, stumbled into a new source of music income, programming main stage for musical theater. Well, there you go. Yeah. You know, one of the types of music income we don't talk about is the type that that is for live events. One of the main things we teach our students, and we hope for our students when they graduate from the school I teach at, is that they get a job, and most of the jobs they get are in the live world. And so any kinds of these things are good. Here's a few questions I got early today. Kronos is here, says, what are some of the best ways and tools to use to find work as a composer? Well, funny you should mention tools. I do have a new ebook at my site, makemusicincome.com/free, and you can find the tools ebook that I just put out. So there's really good tools there if you want to find them. It's absolutely free. And then you can also, as far as ways, we talk about all the ways on this thing, licensing, work, doing live events, composing for your own Spotify and composing for clients and all that kind of stuff. That's all we talk about on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, because that's what we do every day here, is talk about literally every day almost now. I talk about music, income, and how to make it as a composer. Summer Faze says, inspiring videos. Question: a DJ with a ton of followings heard my new rock single, wants to make a hip hop track. I have publishing with TuneCore, but I don't know how the business works. Wow, that sounds like a deep question. DJing is something that I don't talk about much on this channel because I don't do any of that. But it certainly is another music income that I don't talk about. Someone else made that thought recently, and you're right. As far as how they can make a hip hop track, well, they can make the hip hop track all day long. It's the publishing is not a problem until they want to release it and do something with it. So I'm not sure how TuneCore publishing works. It sounds like you're headed towards some kind of exclusive contract or deal with this person. So just make sure you are watching yourself on that. Lucas says, I've seen your Song Trader video and I've done the pro subscription. I've uploaded some tracks with the distribution too, and Sunday 3 of them will be on stores. Good. I would put as many tracks as you can. And also, I'm not, and I don't mean to take money out of anybody's pocket, but I haven't seen that the pro subscription makes me any more than not having the pro subscription. This year, the past 2 years, I've been zero. I don't pay them at all. And just with the free account, I'm making $300 or $400 a year. If I paid them the $50, I think it's $49 for the year for the pro subscription, I might even come out even with not paying them at all. I might get more, but I have to put that $49 down. I'm just not sure. So I'm kind of into a lot of different things. So glad to have you partners here with me today. Always says, hi, Eric. Thanks for sharing your work here on YouTube. This gives me fresh energy to go on. Greetings from Italy. Nice. Good to have a co-host from Italy here. Well, good to hear about your week. Let's move on with this today. I want to start a new section of the podcast today, and it is the news. And I find that there are news items every week that happen that I enjoy listening to. If somebody else on a podcast covers it, I listen to podcasts in my car. Not sure about you all. And this podcast will air on Monday morning at 6 a.m., just the audio version of this video that you're watching right now. So if you miss any of it, or if you've missed any of it and you want to watch it, you can catch it on the audio podcast. So let's get to the news, because I want to talk about some things that have happened this week and get your thoughts on them as well. One of the things that happened this week is that Logic for iPad came out, and this is one of those things that I have mixed feelings about Logic Pro for iPad. Been watching a lot of the videos. One of the reasons I have the most mixed feelings about it is because I can't get it. Darn it. My iPad is too old, and it's one version back from the version that works on it. But yeah, Logic Pro for iPad came out, and folks, it looks nice. It looks sweet. You can do a lot of things here, but I have to tell you that I feel like anything it does, not that, but almost anything else that it does, I can do a little bit in GarageBand already, or I can do with the Logic remote thing. Now, I am not like talking down about Logic Pro for iPad. I think it's a great thing. And yeah, shoot, you better believe I would have it if it was out. But here's the biggest problem I have with Logic Pro for iPad. I don't create serious music on my iPad. I might have, when I have my iPad, I might mess around and just, work on, play with the instruments. It's a lot of fun. There's, different things you can do. They've got the guitar strings and you can bend them and you can do different things, but playing a keyboard on an iPad is no fun. It's not much different than playing the keyboard on your computer keyboard, and playing notes with that. To me, it's just not very intuitive to make music. Plus, I am a player. When I play, I like to play music that is artful. I like to play the keyboard. I like to play 88 notes and play chords and bass at the same time. So for me, I don't feel like I'm missing much not having the Logic Pro for iPad, because I don't need I've got a music studio at my fingertips all the time, and that is right here on the computer. And seriously, I just think now I will say that this is probably more for beat makers, people who are creating beats. You know what I mean by that? By hip hop creators, rap creators, people creating more electronic type music. They might find this a lot more interesting, but I just can't see turning this into my full studio and recording 24-bit 48 on an iPad and mixing there. It's yeah, maybe if you're on an airplane, that's fine. But guess what? A laptop does that just the same. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. How do you guys feel about iPad, Logic Pro for iPad? Let's see. Anybody have any comments here about it? What year iPad is needed? Good point. I think did I write that down here? No. If you go to iPad, well, it just tells you right there on the site. If I'm still sharing this site, I think you have to have a Bionic, a Bionic thing here. Let's see if it says. It doesn't have it on here, but I know that I have the. Oh, here we go. What iPad do I need to use? You can install Logic Pro for iPad on any iPad with the A12 Bionic chip or later, and iPad OS 16.4 or later. Now, I will tell you from experience that iPad Pro, the iPad, I have the iPad Pro 2, second generation. Doesn't work on that. It works on the third generation iPad Pro, and then you have to have the Bionic chip. Stephen Talamy says, I imagine the amount of storage for samples you would need on the iPad. Yeah, and that seems to be a problem some people are having, is putting the iPad, is putting their own samples on there. It's not as easy as it should be. And so a lot of people are not crazy about that part. Shane asked, can you hook a MIDI controller into the iPad? Yes, it's very easy. Yeah, well, and true, a lot of the iPads now are USB-C, so they certainly can. I know I did it at work the other night on my older iPad. I had to have the dongle, but it works just fine as long as the controller doesn't require a lot of power. Sometimes the iPads don't have enough to power the controller. Okay, and so it's $5 a month. They went subscription for this, by the way. So if you want to have it, you can have it for $5 a month. I think if I was going to use it, I would pay the, I think it's, what is it? $49 for the year, $50 for the year, something like that. So I would probably pay it by the year if I was going to use it, but likely I wouldn't use it. Likely I would put it on there. I'd mess around with it a little bit like I do most apps. And then I tell you folks, I just don't end up using the apps on the iPad for music. I don't know why. All right, very cool. Let's move on here, and let me get to my next bit of news here, and that is CDBaby is announced this week that they are absolutely ending their physical distribution. And so a lot of you might be saying, like I did, I thought they already ended their their distribution, and they did, but they had another part of a distribution they were doing to stores. And so this, if you go to their site, this is on the DIY Musician page, which we're going to talk about the DIY Musician podcast here too in a minute. But yeah, on June 22, CDBaby will stop distributing CDs and vinyl in order to focus on the continuing development of digital music distribution and promotional tools. I think it's funny they talk about, why is distribution ending? Does CDBaby still manufacture CDs? There's a little bit of that kind of stuff. As you can see, they are really continuing to move to streaming only. But I love this down here. What about the name CDBaby? And they say, yeah, we know. So mark my words. I think that is something that is changing at CDBaby very soon. I think they will be changing their name, because CDBaby just doesn't make any sense anymore. I'm sure it's hard to turn a ship like that around, where you've been the place called CDBaby for so long, but I think it's time for a name change there. Arco continues to say, I don't know if he's here in the chat, but he always says it should be called CDBaby, but which is pretty funny. Shane says, not sure I have actually listened to a CD in 5 years. Yeah, pretty much same. I would like to, and I prefer music at that bit rate, at least 1644, which is what CDs are. But yeah, they're not making CDs. I know people are still making them. I have a client making them right now. I have another client who's going to make them for the album that we're tracking on Tuesday. So people still do make them. I think everybody's holding on to the past, though, with that a little bit. But as we're going to talk about here in a minute, there's something that you should be thinking about, and you might want to think about making CDs, because some things have changed. So one last thing I wanted to talk about relating to CDBaby is that Kevin Bruner, who has been on the DIY podcast since it started, I can't remember how long ago, 15 years, something like that, since him and the other guy that he runs the podcast with has taken another job with BandLab, I believe. And so he has left the DIY Musician podcast, which I listen to a lot. If you're a musician who works out and doing gigs and things like that a lot and trying to do the Spotify thing and be an artist, they are a great podcast to listen to. I don't know what's going to happen with it now. They haven't really talked about it, but I'm sure they will. So the only thing that's fishy about this, and about Kevin leaving this particular podcast and the DIY Musician podcast is, isn't it strange, folks, how CDBaby, or I should say how Kevin Bruner has left the podcast at CDBaby, and also the same week Steve leaves the podcast here on Make Music Income. Is that fishy? Is there something going on here where are they in cahoots? I don't know, but I'm just kidding. I doubt they're in cahoots. Let's hope they're not in cahoots. All right, so I want to get into the meat of today and what I want to talk about on the podcast today, and that is I want to talk about statistics. Doesn't that sound interesting? But I think it's important that we look at what is happening in the bigger picture of music. This is a music income site, and one of the things I'm most interested in is the music industry income as a whole, and that's what I want to talk about today. It's one of those things that I think is important that we keep an eye on what's happening with all the stats. And we're going to look at the year-end stats here in the States, and then we're going to look at the year-end stats around the world, so you can kind of see what's happening. I think you'll be kind of interested in that. So let's take a look at this and open that screen up and take a look at, and I will try my best to speak instead of say look at the slides, so people listening to the podcast can hear these stats too as you're driving along down life's highway, listening to the dulcet tones of the Make Music Income podcast. Okay, so first of all, we have this is the recorded music revenues from the last 3 years, and it has grown every year starting in 2020. It was, the retail sales were 12.1 million, or I should say billion. This is billion with a B, folks. In 2021, it rose up to 15 billion. Now, that's not a big deal going from 12 to 15 because 2020 was the pandemic. So obviously things probably took a bit of a dive there, but they continued to grow this year, not by as much, but up to another bit to 15.9 billion. Streaming continued to be the large majority of recorded music streams for 2022. So that's no surprise to anybody. One thing that is surprising is paid subscription, ad-supported services, digital and customized radio, social media platforms. All of these grew 7% to a record 13.3 billion in revenue. A lot of that includes paid subscriptions to Spotify, ad-supported things at Pandora and Spotify and all those different places. But I think this graphic here is the best, and it shows streaming for the U.S. recorded revenues. Let me get this perfectly placed here for 2022. Streaming is 84%, went up a percentage point, and it was already at 83% last year, and it continues to grow. I don't know if there's been anything. Maybe the CD had this share of the market at one point, but 84% of all recorded music revenues is pretty amazing, and it's continuing to grow. However, something is stopping it from growing, and that is the growth of physical at 11%. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but to finish out this percentages of the 100%, digital downloads is at 3%, and sync, yes, ladies and gentlemen, sync is at 2%. So this is something that I find very interesting, that sync is in this conversation at all. There's 4 things they talk about in this graph: streaming at 84%, physical sales at 11%, which a lot of you probably can't believe, digital downloads at 3%, and sync is at 2%. So I think Steve Martin once said, just so I'm in there somewhere, that's what sync is saying. I do think this is pretty interesting. The streaming revenues continue to go up, 10 billion in 2020, 12.4 billion in 2021, and 13.3 billion in 2022. So streaming royalties continue to go up. This includes paid subscriptions, digital and customized radio services, and like Pandora, and then ad-supported on-demand things where you have people paying for Spotify or whatever because they're paying for it with ads. All right, so paid subscriptions continue to go up. 92 million U.S. paid subscriptions, which it's, you have advertising supported on-demand services like YouTube, the ad-supported version of Spotify, Facebook, and others. They grew a little slower than previous years where they had been jumping up by about 10 million a year, but, billion a year? No, millions. But anyway, that's up to about 1.8 billion total. I tell you, this is continuing to grow. We're continuing to see these things grow. The music industry, folks, is not stopping at all. Digital downloads, the only thing that is stopping is digital downloads. This is the only thing I think that went down in 2022 and continues to go down every year. I think in the second straight year it was going down. Actually, the third straight year it's going down. If you look at 2020, 665 million in digital download revenues, down to 622 million last year, down to 495 million this year. It's just continuing to sink like a rock. But the kind of crazy thing is physical products are going up still. And so physical products means CDs. It also means vinyl, of course, but continuing to grow. Now, they had a huge growth year after 2020, and I don't know if that was because pandemic things or whatever, but my cat is yelling. But anyway, revenues from vinyl records grew from 17% to 1.2, grew 17% to 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion in vinyl. And the funny part is only 1.5 million were to people with record players. That's just a joke. They probably have more. But it's the 16th consecutive year of growth for vinyl. So vinyl continues to grow. Now, folks, don't get too excited. I said 1.2 billion of vinyl. And what was streaming, like, other 16 billion or something like, I don't know what it was, but it's 13 billion. So it's a small percentage of what is happening with streaming, but it is a thing. We are not completely done with physical yet. For the first time since 1987, listen to this, for the first time since 1987, vinyl albums outsold CDs. Now, this is probably not a surprise to you, but and also after a big year, if you look on in the graph here, for those of you listening, CDs did make a little jump after 2020 up to 2021, but they're back down this year. And vinyl is the other sales. There's a tiny little sliver of other, which would mean cassettes and things like that. But yeah, it's physical has made a bit of a comeback, which I find pretty interesting in this. And then I've got one more page here of some stuff that I think is pretty interested, and I do want to focus in on sync royalties. And if I just kind of bring this up, in 2021, sync royalties were at 306 million, 306.5 million, and in 2022 they were up 24.8%. Sync royalties up to 382.5 million. So sync is on the rise. 25% is a healthy rise in that. So CDs went down about the same amount as sync royalties went up. Just saying. So it may or may not float your boat that sync is doing that, but I found that it was really interesting with all this stuff that's happening that sync is on the rise and still a part of, even that it's mentioned to me is a big deal. And so something to remember. One thing that I saw earlier when I was looking at this is that Sound Exchange distributions, which is Pandora and Sirius Radio mainly, have gone down from 992.5 million to 959 million, a 3.3% decrease. So Sound Exchange, if I make some money on Sound Exchange, I don't know if you do, but that has gone down. But just about everything else has gone up except downloads, as you can see, is just down across the board. And physical is down a little bit on the CD side and on the music video side. I don't know who is buying a physical music video. I didn't even know you could buy a physical music video. Let's see, what is the other physical stuff? CD singles, cassettes, vinyl singles, DVD audio, and SACD. I don't know if you guys remember DVD audio and SACD, but they were two formats that came up about 15 years ago. They tried to make a Blu-ray for audio, didn't take, and so we didn't really get a higher res player and CD or audio. I don't know if anybody has or remembers SACD or any of that kind of stuff. So let's see what you guys have to say. St. Devil says, running a little late today, tuning in late. Well, glad to have you. Glad you're here. So Shane says, not sure I see the sync percentage moving much over the next few years. Maybe not. We'll see. Shane also says, so odd that vinyl is making a comeback. So Walmart is selling a record player. Listen, I was in Barnes & Noble the other day, and they have their entire record section of this one store is still there. And instead of CDs and videos and stuff, it's majority vinyl. It's crazy. So vinyl has 16 years. Vinyl has been growing. Now, it's not close to streaming, y'all. Okay, don't get too excited. 84% versus 11% physical to or streaming to physical. So I don't think streaming is too worried about that. St. Devil says, I think people like to be able to own copies of the music physically rather than being in an endless subscription payment. At least I'd imagine that's a small part of the market. Well, we will see. I don't know about that. I think we are a people of, we like to have ease of use. We are people of convenience. And I think for the most part, we are not wanting anything that's going to be not convenient. And so I think having something on your phone that you can just, I know for me, I am a person who loves all physical media and loves all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I don't have time to do anything in my car except turn on Spotify and play it through my car stereo. And if I'm at work, I'm going to play Spotify. It's just easier. I don't know how there's no CD players anywhere. I have one in my car. I don't even have a CD player in the studio. I do have a CD thing, but I don't keep it hooked up because I never use it. Stephen Talmy says, given its revenue, it would be interesting to know profit. Vinyl is expensive to make and dispatch. Yeah, it is expensive. And it takes a long time to make vinyl. I have artists that are making vinyl right now, and they started their vinyl order in March, and they won't get it till September. And yeah, it's going to be a lot. So they would have to really focus on selling it for, as a signed important piece. But bands are doing that. They're selling those vinyls almost as tchotchkes, if you know what a tchotchke is, but almost as things that people are, just wanting to take home and have signed and put up on a wall or put up on their, on a shelf or something like that. I don't even know if they're playing it. And some of them are really cool. You can get them in different colors, the actual vinyl in different colors. And so again, they become collector's items and things like that. Shane says, I remember the days of jogging with a CD Walkman and getting skips until they incorporated the buffer feature. Yeah. Hey, or the days of jogging with us or going to school or walking around with a CD, with not a CD Walkman, but a cassette Walkman. That was how I lived a lot of my 20s and 30s, was just walk around with my cassette Walkman. Cassettes were, like, in my opinion, the greatest thing in the world back then, because I think in some ways cassettes might have been better than any kind of other technology we have, because they were so accessible and easy to use out and about. You didn't have to have a studio. You just fired up your cassette player and recorded or not recorded. I guess we have apps that do things like that, but I don't know. I kind of miss the one-off things that we had. They were very helpful. All right, let's move on here before we go too long. And let's look at the international stuff here. Now, I find these numbers pretty fascinating. This is the Global Music Report for 2023. Actually, these are the numbers from 2022. These reports usually don't come out until the spring of the next year. So I think in a few months, maybe August, we'll have the mid-year report for 2023. But I usually wait for the full year. I know it's a little old information, but hey, it's the best we can do for all of this information they're trying to show to us. So this Global Music Report I found a lot of these pretty interesting too. You can see, I love charts. I'm sorry. But, and I'm for those of you listening to the podcast, right now I'm looking at a chart, the global recorded music industry revenues from 1999 to 2022. And you could see what has happened. This is such an interesting chart to see the 1999, all of the music industry. I mean, there's red, blue, orange, green, and purple. And the red is CDs, and the green is downloads, and the blue is streaming. And you see how the red from 1999 has gone down steadily, almost every single year, gone completely down until 2020, where it started to edge back up. That's CDs. And then in 2004, downloads started with the whole Apple craze. And so downloads became a thing, peaking out in about, looks like 2012. And then just continuing to fall every year after that to now. And then you have streaming, which is blue, and streaming starts around 2006, but doesn't become fully adopted here in the States until 2011, 2012. And after that, it's just all blue and goes up to 17.5 billion this year, against 4.6 billion in physical, against 2.5 billion in. Oh, and this is funny. This chart talks about something that the other one didn't talk about at all. And let me go on down here to global music revenues by segment. And now here's where this is really interesting. And I hope you're still watching at this point, because this shows the world. This is global recorded music revenues. Now, we just saw the US ones where it was 84% streaming. And now in the global, but this global music reviews is only 67% streaming. That is a huge difference, that the world is only streaming 67%. Now, do I think that's going to go up? Probably. But physical is the next biggest thing, and that is up from our 11% in the US to 17.5% around the world. This shouldn't be surprising to you, especially nations that don't have the technology to get it as fast. And then you have different cultures like Japan, who really value physical things more than streaming things. And so it's been harder for them to let go of CDs and things like that in Japan, I know, and probably other cultures as well, that maybe just don't get the technology as quickly. And so again, the next biggest one after that is very interesting, and it's not on the chart at all on the US, and that is performance rights. Yes, PRO, performance rights. I tell you what, if you want to know about performance rights, our friend Dave Croft did an amazing video yesterday where he broke down PROs down to the ground and then built it back up again. And he talks about everything PRO. If you have the least bit question about performance rights organizations, you need to go and listen or watch his podcast from this week about PROs. He does a great job with that. But interesting that almost 10% of the global music revenues around the world is performance rights. Pretty shocking, especially since, and the next one is 3.6 digital downloads, which is close to what we had here in the States, and then 2.4 in sync royalties, which again also is close. So, a lot of times when I think about income from sync, I am putting performance rights into that. And Dave does a good job of talking about different areas of production music and incomes that aren't just sync royalties. But for me, I kind of bunch all that in. If I'm working on sync stuff, most of my PRO payments are going to be for sync placements. So I think of that as sync income kind of, and I probably shouldn't. But anyway, pretty interesting that in the global world, only 67% is streaming, and we have a much larger physical presence, 17.5%. And then the performance rights stuff. You can find this, by the way, at IFPI. I'm not exactly sure of the site. Do I have the site here? No, I just have the PDFs. So yeah, you can find that there. But this is pretty interesting too. Figures by format. So physical went up 4% around the world. Streaming went up 11.5%. All that's normal. Downloads fell even worse at 11.7% around the world. And performance rights grew 8.6%. But here is the one that I'm interested in. Synchronization, accounting for 2.4% of the market in 2022. Synchronization, revenues from the use of recorded music in advertising, film, games, and TV maintained strong increases, posting another year of growth, exceeding 20% and reaching $640.4 million. Compared to like 15 billion, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's growing. It's continuing to grow, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing I thought was really cool about this chart was the figures by region. And you can kind of see here a little bit, if I can get this set right. The biggest one was Africa, which sub-Saharan Africa, I should say. Steep increase of 34.7%, the only region to see more than 30% growth in the world. So Africa is starting to have a very strong climb in music revenues and pretty big growth, almost 35% growth in Africa. The next biggest one is Latin America, which again, not surprising with everything that's happened in reggaeton and everything. Every market saw double-digit growth in Latin America, up 26%. So pretty impressive. Followed by the other part of Africa, the northern part of Africa, Middle East and North Africa at 23.8%. But every place, US and Canada, was the smallest. We were the smallest growth of the world. So just look at music growing everywhere, all things. And we are not in a bad place with music. If you're afraid that AI is messing up with music, that doesn't even come into the conversation right now. AI is just tools that we can use to do some stuff. But man, everything looks pretty healthy here. And I don't know about you, but seeing these figures makes me kind of happy about what is happening with music and the fact that sync is on the rise and physical products are on the rise, but streaming is also on the rise. Everything is on the rise. Let's see if I have any comments about that. Shane says that the CD Walkman is better than an 8-track. Yeah, certainly better than 8-track. Anybody else here? Hey, Arco, good to see you. D-Man says, is it worth for new musicians to make CDs anymore and pay a graphic artist for the CD cover, or is it better to stick with digital when starting out for new musicians? I think this is a pretty no-brainer. I mean, it's going to depend on if you're playing live, you're going to need something to sell. Now, these days, I think most people's merch that they're selling and making income from is t-shirts or some kind of merch like that. But CDs are cheap to make. You can make 100 for $200-300, and you can sign them. The problem is most people just don't have any use for a CD. Shane was just saying it. And Shane and I are older folks who come from that generation of CDs, but even we now are used to streaming. And it used to be that the older demographic use CDs still. I think a younger demographic uses vinyl. So vinyl is something that you could make, but it's expensive to make. I think if you're just starting out with digital is certainly better. I don't think there's much. I think it's kind of a no-brainer these days that you should be focused on making music to put out through channels that don't require a lot of overhead, and that means digital. And so you'd be better spent than spending CDs. That you'd be better and wiser to spend your money on marketing online, trying to get stuff to playlists, trying to get stuff, doing some Facebook marketing to grow your Spotify. Probably then pursuing some kind of licensing for your music, then trying to make CDs and sell them. I just don't think that is going to happen. Yeah, Arco, doing good. Arco said something here a minute ago. I see some new features in YouTube. And yes, Arco, there are some new features. There is something called Make Music Income Daily. I have a new join button. I am looking for the first people to jump on this and absorb this content. I've made 5 pieces of content already. 4 are up now. I'll be putting the 5th one up from today up there. This shows you behind the scenes stuff in here or wherever I am making music income. So if you're interested in that, check out youtube.com/makemusicincome/join. A lot of letters to type, or you can just go on desktop to the Make Music Income channel and join and be part of that. I'd like to see what you think of that. I need 5 or 10 people who might be interested in supporting the channel to join this and see if you like this content and see if it's interesting to you. If it is, come watch me make music income daily. It's shockingly interesting. D-Man, you are welcome. Thanks so much for that. Saint Devil says, I wonder if the numbers are just for inflation or not. Well, I don't think it really matters, the exact numbers. I think I'm a little bit more focused on the growth of things, of even if the numbers were all inflated, even if you took them all down, the percentages would be the same. So I'm more interested in how things are going, how streaming continues to grow, how physical continues to grow. I'm always looking for ways that we might figure out ways to make more music income daily even. But I think that these statistics really show us a little bit about what is happening in the industry and what is happening around, not just in the US where everything's up except downloads, around the world where everything's up except downloads. So it's a pretty fun time to be part of making music. And I hope this has been somewhat interesting to you. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. I think I'm about done. If you have any last questions, throw them in. Like I said, please take a look at Make Music Income Daily. See if it's interesting to you. And if it is, join the channel. Would love to have just see if this is going to work, this kind of underground movement of people who want to make music income. If you do, then this is for you. It's about time for me to get back over to this new computer and get it revved up and get from Mr. Stevie B. And if you're wondering where Stevie B is on the podcast and you're just tuning in, he is busy like a little Stevie Beaver and working. So Jonathan Carlisle, thanks for being here. Good to see you. Shane says, great episode this morning. Thank you, Shane. Thanks for being here. Thanks everybody for being here. So much fun to go over this stuff, and make sure you tune in next week for the podcast. We're going to continue to do some new things with the news and the subjects, and maybe even some guest hosts. So, all right, everybody, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for being here.